Hi, I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. So today we're going to discuss something kind of pivotal to something that we haven't talked about yet on this channel, and that's Fallout. Now, as many of you know, Fallout is an RPG made by several game development companies over the course of its history, but it all takes place in the same post-apocalyptic world. And the particular apocalypse in this world is a nuclear war. So today I want to go over the climate that led to that war, and sort of how it played out. So within the Fallout universe, the nuclear war that ended the world is very rarely referred to as World War III. Instead, it's normally referred to as the Great War, or more properly, the Sino-American War. And at the time of the nuclear exchange, the war had been going on for several years. So before we talk about the war itself, let's talk a little bit about the universe in which it exists in, and the build-up to the war. Now, in Fallout, the United States never advanced past the sort of 50s aesthetic and mentality, so we get this sort of 50s World of Tomorrow view on what the world became. Things like domestic robots and nuclear-powered cars. Along with this mentality comes rampant overuse of natural resources. By the time of the Great War in the Fallout universe, much of the natural resources of the planet have already been depleted. There is constant fighting between nations over the last remaining reserves of oil and natural gas. The Soviet Union did not collapse in the Fallout universe, however, is not the main combatant opposite of the United States. The sort of duration of the Cold War in our universe gave time for the United States and the Soviet Union to kind of, I don't want to say like become friends, but they didn't hate each other as much as the United States hated its other big rival. And that rival is China. So as resources start to dwindle, fighting between major superpowers becomes a real issue. By the 2060s, the last remaining oil reserves on the planet are in Alaska. And that makes Alaska a tantalizing target for the starting to die People's Republic of China. Now, I'm not going to pretend that America's doing any better, by the way. It has its own slew of problems in the Fallout universe. But eventually, tensions boil over, and the People's Republic of China invades Alaska. Now, China's quickly able to gather ground in Alaska before they meet stiff resistance from the Americans. The battle for Alaska rages for more than 10 years, finishing in early 2077. During that time, some of the fiercest fighting occurred between Chinese and American forces. To gain better access to Alaska, where the war is going on, from the US mainland, the United States actually annexes Canada during the war. Canada would remain US territory until the end of the world. But eventually, in early 2077, the Americans were able to push the Chinese out of Alaska, thanks to one major act carried out by the United States, an invasion of the Chinese mainland by the United States. This counter-invasion, with the intention of taking pressure off of Alaska, became remarkably successful. But with their invasion of China already underway, there was no reason to really stop, so they just kept pushing toward Beijing. By October 2077, the Americans were pretty much on the doorstep of the Chinese capital. The war almost certainly lost to the Chinese, and they had pretty much two options. Either forfeit their country to the United States, or do the unthinkable. And so, from the American perspective, in the morning of October 23rd, 2077, the People's Republic of China launched the first nuclear weapons. The United States quickly retaliated, and over the course of 2 hours, both continents were devastated. Now, the specifics of the war we don't know much about. We know both nations had ICBMs at their disposal, and both nations had fleets of bombers at their disposal, but beyond that, we don't know a ton about the specifics of the war. But we do know one thing for sure. The number of weapons exchanged and the sheer amount of devastation destroyed the world. Both the United States and the People's Republic of China pretty much ceased to exist in any functional capacity after the war. The United States sort of filtering down into a few successor states, boiling down to basically just the enclave, and we don't know the status of China after the war. Now, in the United States, some people did survive the war by going into underground shelters known as vaults. And there's a whole bunch to talk about vaults, so that's going to have to be a separate video. But looking at what Fallout is, it's clear how important this war is and how much it affects everything else in the franchise. But if you enjoyed what you saw here today, or you just want more sci-fi discussions, head down below at the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. Tell me what you thought of the Great War. Do you think it deserves to be fleshed out more, or is it just a means to the Fallout universe that we know, which is the post-war universe? So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.